Hello, everyone. Today with us, we have Kim Daly, the Daly coach, who is here to talk about franchising. Kim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Deacon. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for being on today. I'm curious, how did you get into franchising?
Well, so that's a loaded question because in our industry, we always say to each other, like, how did franchising find you? Nobody wakes up, Deacon, and goes, oh, yeah, my dream is to own franchise. I said nobody ever. But what happens is a lot of times people find themselves at a crossroad where you're like some pain point, you're looking for something greater, you start exploring options and you think, oh, wow, a franchise. Well, my story isn't quite like that, but that's a very common story. I ended up answering a classified ad in the newspaper for a franchise company right out of college that turned into a full-time position that then took me down the journey of entrepreneurship, because everybody who thinks about owning their own business thinks, even in franchising, thinks I can go do it myself. I don't need a franchisor. And I did that for 5 years, only to realize that entrepreneurship is the loneliest, hardest path to success. And I came back to my franchising roots when I was 30 years old, and I found the company that I'm a part of today called FranChoice. And here I am 22 years later. I am one of the top consultants in the country. I've helped nearly 1,000 people become business owners in the United States of America over the last 22 years of my life. So that's my story.
That's incredible. So 22 years of experience, you helped 1,000 entrepreneurs get started. But let's wind back just a little bit. What was the first business that you got involved in? What did that look like?
So I was during the dot-com bubble. So after I left the franchise consulting company that I was an employee of, which was the only job I ever had. So I only worked as a W-2 for 3 years out of college. But I knew from day one, there was definitely a better path for Kim Daly. Like it never suited me to work when somebody else told me to be there, the whole FaceTime in the office, even though I had done my work for the day. Like I was always like the overachieving salesperson, making all the goals. And I'm like, give me the freedom. And I just didn't like other people telling me when I had to be there for no reason at all. So for that and many other reasons, I just broke free. And I always joke with my dad. I woke up when I was like maybe 40 years old, and I was like, I told my dad, I'm completely unemployable. And he laughed hysterically. He's like, Kimberly, you've been unemployable since you were 2 years old. So I guess I've always been a little bit independent. But the first company that I started was during the dot-com bubble. I followed my passion into health and fitness. I launched a website that I actually got partnered with usatoday.com. So when you clicked on usatoday.com on health and fitness marketplace, it actually would click over to my company called behealthynow.com. So because of that national exposure, I was launched into the stratosphere. But Deacon, you know what? It was fun. I was successful out of the gate, but it was either like chase private equity money, which wasn't the business I wanted to be in. I wanted to be in helping people in fitness and wellness, and I wanted to build a community. And before we had things like, social media, following private equity dollars just wasn't for me. So that's when I was like, you know what? I need something more stable. I need something where I'm connected to other people. I'm not like out here in the wild, wild west trying to make it up as I go along. How much money is it going to take? What's that ROI even going to be, if it's even going to be anything? It was just too many unknowns in entrepreneurship for me, really, for most people. And that's why I turned back to franchising. I just didn't have any idea that one yes to the franchise would take me on this history-making trajectory that changed forever the franchise consulting industry, because I built the largest franchise consulting business that had ever been built. I did that back in 2011. And I've broken my own history since then. And of course, changed the history of my professional career, my family, financially, everything changed because I said yes to a franchise 22 years ago. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I'm like, there's nothing special about me. If people have the desire to change their life, you're at a crossroad, you're just tired of working for the man, you want something more. Maybe you can't even get ahead. Maybe you make great salary, but with you and your spouse, but you just can't even figure out how we're going to pay for college. That's where a franchise can enter that scenario.
So I think that resonates with a lot of people, that they have a job and they really wish they could start a business, but they don't know where to start. And, franchising can be a great way to start a business and have, some benefits to that. So can you kind of go over what are some of the benefits of starting a franchise?
Yeah, it's so true, Deacon. So a franchise allows somebody without prior business ownership experience, no MBA, really no special education required, to own a business. You're going to buy down the learning curve because you partner yourself with people who've already figured it out. So you pay them that one-time fee, which is called a franchise fee, and that buys you access into their world. So they've already gone out, built a proven business model, perfected it, like trialed and errored it over multiple locations. They've packaged all of that up. So they have standard operating procedures for the operation. They have marketing. They hopefully have created technology that helps you to run an efficient business. They're going to provide you that upfront training that allows you to learn how to run this business, and then that ongoing support. So you should never feel like you're in this alone. So that's like tactically what you're doing when you invest in a franchise. But when you zoom out and people come to me and say, I want to own a business, I want to control my future, the number one thing I would say to you is the two biggest advantages to investing in a franchise are this. Number one, that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So when you go to select the right business, Deacon, it will be because you found people who have a vision for bringing a brand to market, and you align with that vision. So for me, helping you to find the right business is more about who than what. I'm way less interested in what the business does than I am in finding you an amazing franchisor partner. If you want to do it alone, go be an entrepreneur. This is a world where you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So that's the first advantage. The second advantage to investing in a franchise compared to entrepreneurship is the ability to leverage and scale. So in anything, entrepreneurship or franchisepreneurship, wealth is created through scale, even in other types of investments, right? If you're a real estate investor or stock investor, it's not about one stock, right? It's not about one rooftop. It's how do I leverage my time across multiple rooftops? Well, the same thing will be true in a franchise. You will be leveraging yourself through either people, equipment, or a brick and mortar location. So the idea in a franchise is you could certainly invest in one, but one is not really what's going to make you like wealthy, financially anyway. Maybe time-wise, but not financially. So it's always about how do I duplicate myself to 2 or 3. Entrepreneurs, they really never ever figure this out, right? Because the first location is so all-consuming and basically built around their own center of influence. But in a franchise where you are not the center of influence, you're investing in a brand name. You're investing in systems and technology and hiring people to work for you, with you. You have that built-in leverage that allows you then to scale. So in 1 to 3, or let's say 3 to 5 years, an entrepreneur may spend those 3 to 5 years just perfecting the business. In that same 3 to 5 years, I can take a franchisepreneur and have him or her with 3 to 5 locations up and operating. So it's about who, not what, and it's about the opportunity to leverage and scale to really build wealth. That's where franchising wins.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about the who, not what, right? So, because I think a lot of people think of franchises, I immediately think of Chick-fil-A or Subway or, things like that. What are some of the opportunities out there, and who is a good fit for what kind of opportunities?
Okay, so I am one of America's top franchise consultants, and you will have to beg me to show you food. There is so much more in franchising than food and even retail. That's just what we know as consumers because they're advertised as franchises. But there are franchise businesses in so many other industries, even B2B professional services. Like we have temporary staffing. The 4th largest temporary staffing company in the world is a franchise with franchisees that have $30-40 million operations. Yeah, not joking. We have franchise businesses in the home services space, which is my favorite space. So think about, as a homeowner, all the products and services that you may need, from the inside things like painting or a new beautiful California closet, right? Makes me smile just saying it. New flooring in your house. You don't need special skills. You don't need to be the subcontractor who knows how to lay the flooring. You're going to own a sales and marketing company that sells that product. And then you're going to, with the help of the franchisor, find the subs who come in and do that work. So then you go out in the yard, patios, pools, power washing, gutters, landscaping, outdoor lighting. I mean, there's endless options that service the homeowners that all exploded during 2020 and have not really stopped. Then we have pet services, elderly care services, products and services for children, beauty, one of my favorite, there are so many types of options that go way beyond food and retail that, again, you're going to have to beg me if you want food. And even if I bring it to you, I can almost guarantee you won't say yes to it once I show you what I know. And what I know is that there's just no money in food relative to other businesses. When you factor in the number of hours you're operating, minimum wage labor, very slim margins, like 70 a week, 24-hour basic operations, it's just the hardest way to make money. The people who do it, I think, they just don't know any better. They don't know someone like Kim Daly exists who can show you other options that have Monday through Friday work weeks, that have, 20, 30, 40% net margins versus 8 to 10% net margins. Like they just don't know. So you come to someone like me and I'm going to get you in the know. And I'm not going to make any earnings claims to you. I'm not going to, help, push you into any specific idea. I'm going to broaden your vision about what's possible, what's out there that matches you. That was the second part of your question. And then teach you how to think through this for yourself so you can decide if franchising is right for you. And then if it is, among the small group of options that we've curated for you that match your background, your interests, your skills, and your finances, is there one that feels like the right partnership for you?
And that leads me to, I think a lot of people might be thinking, how much money does it take to start a franchise? I know that there's a scale, right? Like I'm sure some are millions of dollars and some not so much. So if someone's listening and they're like, I want to get started, but I need to get an idea, how much does it cost to start a franchise?
Well, the number one thing I would say, it's an awesome question, is do not eliminate yourself because you think you don't have enough money. Like, I won't waste your time. I offer a free service. This is no risk to you to reach out to me and allow me to educate you. So like you said, Deacon, there are all different qualifiers. There are liquid asset requirements, and then there are net worth requirements. So if you asked me and I was going to give you a black and white answer, I would say the minimum I can work with is $50,000 liquid, maybe a minimum net worth of $150,000. But like, what does that even mean to you? And like buying a car in this world, the more money you have, the more options you're going to have. But, there are financing options available. So it's worth the conversation with me, because one of the very first things I'm going to do for every single investor that I meet is I'm going to teach you what your money buys. So before I ask you, how much money do you think you want to put into a business or you think you can afford? Because is that even a fair question if you don't even know what your money buys? No, it's not a fair question. So it's better for me to educate you how money and time go together, why different types of businesses cost different amounts, because there's also a lot of limiting beliefs about franchising and how expensive they are and how franchisors just jack up the cost of starting a business. Trust me, I've heard it all, Deacon. I've done it for 22 years. It's why I have over 800 videos on my YouTube channel to dispel and debunk all these myths. But so I want you to come to me. I won't waste your time because I'm not going to waste my time. And sometimes I'm able to get you over to my finance company right away. Like if I'm questioning, oh, you're just on the border, but let's just see what you would qualify for. If you're open, once you get educated about how the banks loan money and you hear the terms of a loan, you come back to me and the bank says, hey, we'll pre-qual this person for a loan for $250,000. Okay. So you don't have to figure that out. Let Kim Daly help you. I'll guide you to the experts. We'll get you pre-qualified if we're not sure. But there are some hard bottom lines to where we can begin, the ones I've already stated, but I'd like to massage that conversation with you.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate it. I mean, like we said, there's going to be people at different ends of the scale and different parts of their journey, right? As far as how much resources they have and what they can do. Let's switch gears to personalities. What if someone's an introvert?
You mentioned that you have a lot of 9-to-5ers that listen to your show, Deacon. So let me say this one more thing, because a lot of times when you've worked in corporate America, you've accumulated money in a 401k. Now, what if you've been let go from a job before and that 401k is still sitting there with that previous employer? Well, that 401k that's not tied to a current employer is eligible for use as your seed money for starting a business, and you will not create a taxable event by touching it. Most people don't know that this program exists. This is, again, why it's worth a call to Kim Daly, because that 401k is gold, baby. The majority of the people that I work with, Deacon, will use a portion, if not all of that 401k, plus a loan, depending on, where they are financially and what kind of investment they're trying to get into. But even if you go for an SBA loan or a traditional loan, the bank requires you typically to have some amount of cash up front, right? Some liquidity. And so often, let's say that's just like 50 grand. Well, maybe you don't have 50 grand sitting around in your checking account, right? So it's easier to take it from your 401k without creating a taxable event than it is even to sell off stock and then have to pay tax on that, right? So this is where, when you think about how the rich get richer, they're playing a better money game. They own businesses, they create tax shelter, they have velocity of their money, and this is what I'm teaching people to do. So don't answer the questions from the sideline. Let me help you. Now back to your question about introverts. Sorry, I talked too much. An introverted personality can definitely own a franchise. You're probably going to need a sidekick who can be a little more forward-facing, meaning you're going to have to hire a general manager or bring your wife or your spouse in if they're the outgoing part of the partnership. A business requires a leader. And so you don't have to be the face of your company, but you do have to be a leader to your team, right? You do have to want to put in the effort to build a community inside your business. So if you're super introverted, that's a little bit challenging, but I've worked with geologists. I've worked with accountants, not notoriously outgoing people. I've worked with engineers. So there are different franchises for every personality. Again, don't limit yourself because you think you won't qualify. I will not waste your time or talk you into it, but I want to educate you.
No, that's a great distinction about having someone else potentially be the face of the business, but you still are the leader of the business potentially. So no matter what your personality style is. One thing I want to touch on, Kim, just so people that are listening, because I'm more of a personal finance guy, right? So I would be cautious in the 401k scenario. And here's why. I think that let's say you have $500,000 and you want to get 50 grand. That's a different story. If you have 50 grand in a 401k and you want to start a business and take all of that money, I would just be cautious just because of the scenario of, what if your business doesn't work out, right? And so I think that it can be one of those things where talk with Kim or even email myself if you have a particular situation where you're like, hey, I just want to make sure this is the best fit for me because, there isn't a one size fits all equation, right? So there is kind of like these are just generalities. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the debt side of things. Just so you know, Kim, I'm a completely debt-free guy. However, I know how capital works. And so I'm not anti-debt when it comes to starting a business. But what I do say is have a plan. If you are going to finance, you need to have a rock solid plan. And I'm sure, Kim, let's talk about that. Let's talk about creating a plan when you're starting a franchise. It's like, okay, you figured out the money component. You figured out what franchise. How do you know how long it's going to take to kind of get a return on your investment and get your money back?
So, okay, these are all great things to discuss that really get discussed through the 1 to 2 month due diligence process. And I will not be giving the specific answers to those questions. For the purpose of this interview, I'm going to engage with you in this. But
Sure.
During your due diligence process, you will have access to other franchisees who've already said yes to this business, who are going to share with you what they've been able to create. But I want to focus on the word create. So as the business owner, you are the creator of this reality. It is the biggest myth and what I call the silent killer in franchising. That you, Mr. Franchisor, are going to make me successful. Everybody believes it. Everybody thinks, well, if a franchise is so good, Kim, why do people fail, right? Everybody's thinking, if you're listening, laugh with me because you know you thought that at one point in your life. Businesses fail because it is not the franchisor's job to make you successful. It's your job. So I'm going to take it back to when I was a personal trainer, right? I could have the most state-of-the-art gym with the best equipment and clean. And I could have the most cutting-edge science for how to get your body shredded. But could I make you get out of bed and show up for your workout? Could I make you do that extra rep when you want to quit because you're a little bit sore or tired? No, right? In anything like getting in shape, in owning a business, success isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. My trainer, when I have a trainer, even though I was the trainer, my trainer always says, Kim, it's time under tension. And I always say that in business. Guys, it's time under tension. Can you be successful? I don't know. Can you? Can you stay committed to your goals when it's hard? Because everybody's going to do it when it's easy, right? When things aren't going right, can you stay committed? Can you stay hopeful? Can you talk about what's going right instead of what's going wrong? I don't know. Can you? So I'm not only the franchise consultant today, but I'm also a mindset coach because what I've learned, what I did in the 22 years that I was a part of my franchise, for my first 8 years, Deacon, I was an average performing franchisee. I did what it was expected for the average pack, but I knew that I was made for more and it bugged me. So then 1 year later, in 2011, in the heart of the recession, I made history in the franchise consulting industry. I built the largest franchise consulting business. I personally made over 350% more revenue in my 9th year of business than I did in my 8th or any year before. So this is my story. And this is what you're going to learn from. Because if I did it, you can do it. So I spent 8 years waiting for somebody else to make my business work. Just like I know everybody else out there wants. We all want somebody else because it's better to be a victim. It's better to be a victim. Trust me, right? Than to show up and be accountable. But the year that I decided to show up and be accountable to a bigger goal and to myself and to put my head down and follow through, I made history in my industry. I made over 350% more revenue. So my franchise business was the same. We were still in a recession. Nothing changed externally. What changed was my mindset. So when I get up and I give talks and lead breakout sessions at franchise conventions and get on my little soapbox, and I'm going to tell you that success in your business is only 20% that franchise system that you're going to pay for. 80% of whether you're successful or not is how you think, how you talk, and then how you act.
That's awesome.
I've spoken.
So if people really resonate with your message, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Okay, so I have a couple of resources. If you go to my website, the Daly Coach, DALY, thedalycoach.com. So right on the landing page, we got a quick little quiz. Are you fit to own a franchise? Find out. It's fun. It'll teach you some things, and it leads you to a free download of my ebook called How to Pick a Winning Franchise. I also have a free webinar on my website as well. Now, if you want more information about franchising in general, I would head straight over to my YouTube channel. Like I already mentioned, I have over 800 videos. That's Kim Daly, DALY.TV. And I bust all the myths. I also have a podcast, and every single episode of my podcast is on my YouTube channel where I interview inspiring franchisees who tell their real world stories. I interview business coaches. So there's a lot of resource over there at Kim Daly TV.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to link to those below the show here. And Kim, thank you so much for being on today.
It was my pleasure. You asked great questions. I hope I inspired your audience today.